How's that? I'll tell you, but it does not. It feels so good to get this tore out of here and that concrete slab swept off. There was rotten chicken eggs in the pallets in hay. The scent in there was absolutely unbelievable. I probably caught some kind of Ebola or whatever you get from bat caves from cleaning this up. Sarah flashed up the new quad and we put a lariat on there and chain and ripped these suckers right out of here. So, it's break time before the news starts going up. As promised, I'm going to get some shares out to the people from the people. Then I'm going to go and eat, and then I'm going to come back out here and I'm going to frame these two walls up, sheet them in before the end of the day. That's the goal. Tomorrow I got to leave. Sounds like somebody's put on a roof in the next door place over through the forest. Something. Alright, let's mark this as red. Stories of Bigfoot and my experience with a portal. This ought to be interesting. Hey Steve, this is Catherine again. I had to change my email, so you may not remember me. My husband and I listened to you read my story March 3rd, 2021. Thank you. I love to listen to you read. You surpass all the others with a no-nonsense and condescension approach. Just truth-seeking. Just keep me spreading the knowledge. Just keep spreading the knowledge. Sorry. Holy, this looks like a real... This is a long one. This is a super long one. I'm going to go for it. Hope it's worthy. You asked me some questions about my story, which you read in March, so let me see if I can answer them, and perhaps share another story or two. But I have decided to add yet another story, as you say, to share all we have. And since getting through this is difficult, I will share more on this one. So, this could be lengthy. If so, I will leave it to your discretion to read in full or not. Additionally, I have fully edited and checked for grammar. I thank you so much. It has been a while since I wrote to you, so this is a catch-up. Hope you'll enjoy and share with others. My experience is not professional, and I will never try to sound as if I'm an all-knowing, but my experience is face-to-face and lasted about 3 years or so while in Ocala National Forest between 12 and 17 years old. I'm now 68. I've always been a logical realist. Additionally, I have a rich family history among the many artistic Jenners. I'm also a genealogist and have traced one of my family lines back to 042/100. I'm a Scottish, English, Irish, Swedish, Norse, Cherokee, and Algonquin. I've been gifted with abilities handed down through Mother Bear and other ancestors to certain things many people are not always aware of and or seen by others, and to converse what they feel it is important to share their knowledge. I assume this has made it easier to communicate with the Sasquatch that befriended me in the Ocala National Forest. Oh, this is going to be interesting. So here we go. The Ocala National Forest is a beautiful, lush area, and we lived on 69 acres, of which the back of the property bordered the Ocklawaha River. I apologize for misspelling it in my original email to you. The river was full of many kinds of life forms, from gators to frogs to raccoon to armadillos and many types of fish. Plenty for the Sasquatch to eat, plus the deer and other animals that populated the area, which is why I think they never bothered my chickens or other pets. Like I said, I spent a lot of time in the forest and at least 2 to 4 evenings a week with the Sasquatch as my company. They appeared to be a family, or an extended family actually. It took about a year before I could get fairly close to them. There was the big guy, as I called him. He was at least 8 to 9 feet with various shades of brown hair, darker down the middle of his back and long in places and not so long in others. Almost always clean looking, except pieces of leaves and debris hanging off in places from walking in the forest and dirty feet. He had his weightlifter kind of body that would have put Schwarzenegger to shame, and at least 4 feet across his shoulders. He had deep-set amber-colored eyes that seemed almost hidden by the well-defined eyebrow ridge. His face was leathery, with a broad nose and a wide, small-lipped smile. He was attentive to his whole family, especially Mama, to whom he obviously cared a great deal for, and he did not seem to mind when the little ones ran around his legs. He really liked the apples and bananas, and in particular nuts and the occasional cookie. His face, as well as the face of all the others, were very human-like, with deep-set eyes spaced fairly far apart. But considering the width of the bridge of the nose, that would be expected. Dark-colored amber eyes with obvious sclera visible through the mama's eyes were pretty hazel-like. The big guy has a beard that hung long from his chin and what could be called a mustache hair coming from just above the upper corner of his lips that hung down with his beard, which was at least 6 to 8 inches long. The nose was fairly flat, but on the mother, she had a bony point as if to give her more of an attitude, lol. The big guy was obviously the dominant one, though I never saw him treat his family unkind, but they all deferred to him with respect and had a few sounds like a sharp bark that he made that indicated it was time to go or for the kids to settle down, and they'd listened and or went and or left just like that. The skin of their faces was sort of leathery but soft looking, especially on the children and the 2 females. Their mouth was fairly straight across but not all the way to the ears, pretty human-like actually. There was a slight fullness to the bottom lip in particular, and more so on the 2 females, and straight dingy white to yellow teeth and straight dingy white to yellow teeth with slightly emphasized canines. Their ears were not very big and laid close to the head and had no hair on the surface. There was also the old man, as I called him. He had dark to various shades of thinning gray hair that had a shaggy and sparse look to it, and perhaps even a silvery look to it across his face and shoulders, and dark gray down his back, and he seemed to have some areas of baldness, like the top of his head, parts of his upper arms and thighs. He did not mingle much, at least till we all became more friendly. He showed again signs such as a wrinkled face and hands. I also noticed that he kind of limped when he walked, and he had missing teeth. The big guy was respectful to the old man, but the old man was always watching. He seemed not to miss anything. The 4 kids were, and since I have no idea how they age, I guessed age to height of human kids, kinda, sorta. So I guesstimated the kids to be about 6 and 8, and the older one to be about mid-teens or older, and the female to be young 20s. Now I was 4'11" tall in those days, and the littlest one was about to my shoulder, and the other one was about my height. The little ones were sort of blondish / brown hair color, and they were both boys. They wrestled with each other and played together with the things natural to their environment. But they loved the ball I gave them, and I showed them how to play with it, and sometimes play together. They also loved bubbles. Then there was the 2 females. The mother I refer to as Mama and companion to the big guy was about 7 feet, I think, and she was large-breasted with dark leathery areolas, and had a soft leathery face and hands. Her reddish-brown hair was long around her face and was the longest all of them, and it looked like she tried to keep it clean minus forest debris. Her face was not quite as flat as the others, and she had little to no hair on her face or her breast, and very little on her hands. She seemed more human-like. She was very friendly. Mama was very attentive to the 2 little ones, and I noticed she had fashioned a few toys made from sticks and fabric for them to play with, and they behaved better than some human kids I've known. I also enjoyed the relationship between Mama and the big guy. It was sweet. It was obvious the way they treated each other. There was some form of affection. The older teenage male was the proverbial awkward teen. He had the shortest hair, and it was dark brown. He also was well built and muscled, and he also had the widest nose of all, and was about 7 to 8 feet. Goofy, seemed to hang with the big guy. I figured he was the brother or a friend to the big guy. He was nearly as tall as the big guy, with the darkest hair of all of them, and he was built like a linebacker, but he had longer legs than the rest. I called him Goofy because he kind of walked like a Disney character, but with amazing long strides. He was also always on the lookout. If there was a noise in the forest, he would amble off to check it out. He was restless and always wandering about. The other female I called Rose looked to be young, but not as young as a teen. For a Sasquatch, she was pretty as a Sasquatch could be. She was about 6 feet and had notable breasts, and while built strongly, she was more feminine. She was always picking at her fingernails. Her hair was like a reddish-brown blonde, depending on the sunlight, and she was pretty quiet. I also noticed she had a habit of making a humming sound to herself. Now I will interject here and tell you that my dad had the prettiest whistle. There was this musical vibrato, and he frequently whistled when he walked in the forest or out shopping. This is sometimes how we found him in the store, or he would do it when he got separated so I could find him. Some months into our residence, before the Sasquatch made themselves known to me, I heard Dad's whistle one evening while coming from the forest, and Dad was watching TV in the living room. I was like, What the F? They love to mimic human behaviors and other animal sounds, and so very well. It was also during this time that I found the structure to broken trees and branches along the river's edge and put two and two together. A few days later, after locating the structure, the dogs were making a fuss and charging the forest edge, and I saw them just behind the tree line, swaying and watching. I frequently referred to them as the Watchers because they watch us and learn. This went on for some weeks, perhaps even months, and finally I just walked out towards the tree line and said, "Hello, I can see you, so stop hiding." They backed off and disappeared, but they were back the next night and again when I went out and spoke to them. I said, "I'm not going anywhere, so you might as well come out." A few nights later they came back, so I went out and sat on the tree stump about 8 feet away from them and started singing and talking to them. They made some clicking sounds and they chattered to each other. That is when I realized some of the sounds I had been hearing while in the forest were them communicating with each other. There was what I called the chipmunk's chatter. Sounds sort of like a chattering of chipmunks, but it also reminded me of a Cherokee Native language and or other Native/First Nations people's language. There were similarities. Then I also became aware of the other sound they made, which was the sounds you hear from the bats called echolocation, echolocation. This was very sophisticated and I found it most fascinating. The clicking sound, sort of like the clicking or clucking of your tongue. They were making the sound one day and then when I made it, there was total silence and they all just stood and stared at me with a look of shock. I don't think they expect me to copy them. As time went by, I would sometimes do it while walking in the forest and I would hear them in the distance answer me back. It was comforting to have them around. I know this is long, but I want to share something else with you. At this time in my life, I had a waist-length red hair. It was a hassle to dry, and I would sometimes sit outside on the stump near the back door and comb my hair in the sun to dry it. I noticed one late afternoon when I was home, alone, that the female seemed very interested in what I was doing. I went to the house and found a denim bag I had made with a cross-your-chest long strap, and I put 2 sturdy combs in it and a round mirror in a pink plastic frame and went out and showed it to them. Taking out one of the combs, I combed my hair and then I put the comb back in the bag and took out the mirror and looked into it to show them what to do. This really shook them up. It was funny, the whole mirror thing. I guess you had to see them, but it kind of scared them at first. I also put the bag strap around my neck and showed them how to use it, but the strap really was not long enough for them. I then walked closer to the tree line and noticed they did not back away, with Rose standing behind Mama. So I held out the bag in hopes Mama would come forward and take it from me, and she did after a long pause. I was like, holy cow. She took it from my hand. I gave her a big smile, she attempted to smile back, and they both looked happy. They stepped back some and took out a comb, and she copied me and combed her hair. I motioned to her to give the other comb to Rose, and she did, and they both were excited like little girls, chattering back and forth. Looking at me comb my hair, they both copied me. I'd also put a bar of lavender fragrant soap in the bag, but I don't think she knew what to do with it, but she liked the smell. But it was really unexpected and not only surprised me, but really caught me off guard. But as I started to comb my hair again with my comb, and I would hold out the length of my hair to comb it, Mama came over and tentatively reached out to touch my hair. I was like, oh my goodness. Then she made this sound that made me think she went, ooh, and then laughed, and then softly did it again. She then turned to Rose and she made this chipmunk-like sound, chittering, talking sound to Rose. And then she turned to me and said, "Mind speak," what sounded to me as pretty. Oh, she said to me in mind speak what sounded to me as pretty. I thanked her and reached out to her and she touched my hand. It was leathery on the underside, was sort of a dark salmon color with dark lines and was softer than I expected, and the hair on top of her head was fairly soft as well. She then seemed to get nervous and reached out to Rose, and they scuttled back into the tree line. And just before they disappeared into its depths, she turned to look at me and raised her hand as she had seen me do many times to wave, and I waved back and they were gone. Holy shit. Another story about my Sasquatch family. One evening when I was sitting on the car and they were at the tree line watching, a huge Bigfoot appeared suddenly in the road about 30 feet from the family and me, and he had red eyes, was at least 10 feet tall, and was covered in dark brown to black hair, and he was massively built. The family saw him and the big guy barked a bark that I had never heard before. He was clearly alarmed. He had barked and anxiously to his family and turned to growl and scream at the massive Bigfoot that appeared. The big guy turned to me and in mind speak told me to run home. And they ran. As I ran towards the house, I heard them telling me to run. He's bad, run. So I did. Ran into the house and I got the gun. He walked towards our house and I stood at the window with the gun. He did not move and must have stood there for at least half an hour, sometimes growling. I would shrek out this hair-raising, body-vibrating, screaming/screech sound that pierced the night. So while he was no more than 12 feet from my kitchen window and all my outside animals were hidden, I remained at the window with the gun. As long as he was there, so was I. He then turned and made a few steps away back down the road and then just vanished. When I saw the family again a week later, the big guy told me that he kills humans, especially humans who have friends like them. He told me he would always keep watch. I know that many people only see them as monsters and wild, dangerous animals, and perhaps there are some here and there that might fit those descriptions, but I dare say and challenge any person to define all Bigfoot/Sasquatch in that manner. History and many personal accounts would agree with me that not all Bigfoot/Sasquatch fit into the monster category. Let's face it, not all humans do either. Throughout history there was/is humans that fall into monster category. Not every human is bad, just like not every Bigfoot/Sasquatch is either. From all the stories over my lifetime and my own personal accounts, I can state with certainty that just like humans, Bigfoot/Sasquatch come in various sizes, colors, temperaments, and personalities. While it does annoy me when people refer to them as apes or gorillas, none of the ones I've witnessed would fall into those parameters either. Their faces all look human. They communicate with each other in human, like intelligent mannerisms, and many have manifested behavior traits that demonstrate kindness and concern for their own kind and for humans. But I understand that ignorance for what it is, unknown, and trying to figure out what one actually is seeing can be easily confused with the closest possible hairy animal. Wow. Another story. They all love nuts. I learned after giving them a few here and there. My dad used to get a huge bushel basket of nuts. Lots of walnuts, Brazil nuts, and almonds. I would put some in a brown bag and I had drawn and colored a big red heart on the bag, and I would leave it for them on the tree stump. Then after the second time, they left me a bunch of rocks with a heart drawn in the dirt in front of the stump, in the dirt. Apparently they watched me look for and collect rocks along the riverbed and in the forest, so we gifted each other something we both liked. I frequently shared food with them and loved it. The time I gave them all popsicles on a hot summer day. They loved them, and it was fun to watch them eat it. I laughed so hard. One more story, the predator Bigfoot. Walking towards the river from my house, down perhaps a football field from home, was an area to the right I loved to hang out at. There was a huge hickory tree, and I loved it. I set back off the road about 20 feet. I learned early on that about 20 feet behind this tree was a magical area. There was an area of the forest that was unlike any place I'd ever been. There was a perfect circle of trees with densely packed forest on the outside. The grass in this circle was softest grass I had ever seen, never had weeds, and was this dark emerald green. But what was really unusual is there was no bugs. The light from the sun was shimmering bright sunlight, and as you walked from the regular forest into the circle, there was a difference in the way it felt, almost as if you walked into a vacuum. Not all my animals would follow me into the circle. There was this magical feeling there, and sometimes, even though I could see the whole space in the circle, I felt as if I were not alone. Though I never felt fear there, in fact, I felt as if this circle was a place of refuge. One time a guy that I was trying to avoid came to visit. Considering how bad the directions were that I gave him, I was surprised he did. I was laying in the grass there reading a book when he arrived, and my mom told him where to find me. When he showed up, I was not really happy to see him. We sat and talked for a few minutes when he got amorous. I tried to back away and he pushed me back onto the ground, and he got physically violent with me. And I was laying on my back and he was on top of me, holding me down by my arms. When out of my peripheral vision, to my right, spitting out hay dust. We're just sweeping here, sorry. I looked to my right. When out of my peripheral vision to my right, I was aware of some disturbance. There was this shining circle of light. I was then aware of something moving towards me. Something came down from this circle and towards us, and suddenly the guy was literally airborne and landed about 5 feet or more away with a hard thud. It was as if he had been kicked. I saw this shimmering, refracted light outline of a massive being. It moved towards my feet, and I was terrified at first that I would be next, but was then assured I was no longer in harm's way. Then there was this rush of electrical infused sound that kind of blasted towards this guy that seemed to roll him over. And then the guy got up, stumbled, was pissed off, but even more, he was scared and uttered some choice words and ran away, falling over himself and out of the circle and back to his car and left. I turned towards this shimmering apparition as I got up, and the being just went through the portal and was gone, with a crackling of sounds, leaving the air all energized. I remember when I first saw the Predator movie, that this was what I saw, and it kind of freaked me out. I have never forgotten that, and I never will. Well, I could go on, but I better stop. I have other stories I can share. Just let me know if you want to hear them. Also, you can hit me up when you get your call center / sound room all set up. You got my number. Don't hesitate to call for more in-depth details. No worries about sharing name. Not concerned with the negative opinions of others. It changes not my opinions and or feelings and or experiences. My husband and I listen to you often. You are the best. Your friend Catherine. As always, Steve, keep your no-nonsense approach to things, especially in regards to the brain-dead idiots in government and the associated departments. Most could not find their ass in a wet paper bag. P.S. I loved it when you were reading stories on the 21st of March, sitting in the barn next to your sweet horse who was busy chowing down and sometimes nudging you for attention. So sweet. I'm sure Macaroni's watching over you. Alright, thank you so much for that lengthy share, but it's definitely a good one. Very detailed. Very interesting. Obviously, there's going to be a handful of people who are going to be rolling their eyes, obviously, right? But there's going to be people rolling their eyes every single time they see a new video posted. There's no way around it. Now, you are not the first person to have shared that you were in contact with these beings through your childhood and a lot of your life. You're definitely not the first one. There's been a handful of people who have shared similar accounts, and they have had numerous people look into those people. And it sounds like it was very legitimate to me, from what I've read and seen and looked into. I do understand there are different flavors of these beings running around without a doubt. We've always heard a rumor that the red glowing eye ones are badasses. I haven't a clue. It's just what we've heard more than a few times. But, some of the people who I respect dearly when it comes to this topic, I have watched them casually, without asking or badgering them or pestering for questions. I just watched them and I learned by their actions. And I've noticed a couple people went very far when it came to investigating this topic, and then they slowly moved on to different topics and even rarely speak of the Sasquatch topic much anymore. So that tells me directly there is much more going on. From what some of these people shared with me, I know there's much more going on, and I wonder if you know, Catherine, if there's what else is going on. I wonder if you know of other beings, entities, what have you. If you know of other things, alarming things that are running around the wilds around our communities today, I'd be interested to hear if you knew that, or if these beings shared with you details of other things that possibly scared the shit out of them or killed them. That'd be pretty cool to find out. But anyway, that's very, very interesting. I'd love to hear more. Very well written, and your time you took to share that, I appreciate it much. Many people here do as well. And we'll hear from you again. I know we will. Now, what do we got here? First time telling. Another one. That's another one. If any, you could even email me if you can. Every single one of you people that waited till 2020, 2021, possibly this channel finally gave you the confidence to share something that you've been harboring for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. and you finally shared it here, I am very curious as to why. And it's a friendly question. I'm curious to know why it is you chose now to share your experience after harboring it as a secret, well-guarded secret all of your life, and why it is, if you could email me and explain to me what gave you the confidence, why now? Why did you share it here in this channel? I'd like to know. Because I have a feeling that some of your answers will help us improve our delivery here and improve direction we may go so that we can spread that confidence to more people that need it. And that's why I'm asking, okay? I want to know what gave you the confidence so that we can really focus on that, so that we can give all those other people out there the confidence to do the same. They're still sitting there nervous with apprehension, okay? That'd be great. Thank you. First time telling 2 stories, Alberta, BC. Hello, Steve. First off, my hats off to you for letting us be known, to the point with no BS. I know multiple individuals that have seen these beings face to face, and they have moved from the bush into downtown city centers. Same. I know of 3 fairly local, meaning these glasses are bed to rat shit, meaning the southwest corner of BC. I know of some very A-type guys, hunters, outdoors people, had the same thing happen. They sold every single thing they had to do with the outdoors, grabbed the family, moved to the city, and they won't even drive through the forest anymore. Secondly, let's just get it out there and say, if anyone thinks for 1 second that you're being told the truth about anything, then you're naive, and well, you should stay with the herd. Here are my 2 stories. 2019, Northwest Alberta. We took up the FSRs, that's the Forest Service Road, to get up to a river for big trout. Had my fly fishing gear and spinning rod with me, but just took the fly rod. Parked the truck kinda on the side below a bridge by an old forestry camp and got geared up. The Forest Service Road continued to the north, walking the bank of the river, which was kind of dumb due to big rocks, steep slope, and a nightmare walking when we could easily have taken the Forest Service Road and cut down through the bush, but we never. Walking for approximately 1.5 kilometers, I stopped and get into a nice pool. My buddy kept going upriver to a pool he's fished before. We stayed in that general area for about 3 hours. Gorgeous day and warm. Fishing was good. 3 bull trout between 5 and 8 pounds. I'm getting pretty hungry at this point, so I decide I'm heading back to the truck to grab a bite. Pack up my gear and think to myself, I'm going through the bush until the road and having an easy walk back. No brainer. As I make my way up the slope to get to the road, I get the feeling something is watching me. I've had this feeling several times in the past, and I keep calm and make myself known. I get out of the bush onto the road, and the feeling's gone. Perfect. Not 30 paces down the road, an overwhelming feeling of complete fear takes over. I could throw up. It was so intense. Someone or something is actually telling my mind to get to the truck and get my gun. You're in grave danger. As I'm writing this, I'm frozen with chills. I'm not sure what it was, but I was being told to move faster. I'm looking back side to side with my head on a swivel. Get to your truck, get to your truck, get to your truck, I'm being told. I'm moving fast and I can see the truck. I start to feel like I'm good, but I'm still being told to move, move, move. I get in the truck, grab the rifle, put 3 rounds in the chamber. As soon as I get in the truck and close the door, the feeling immediately goes away. Like I was in a force field. I was protected. A peaceful feeling takes over, like this never even happened. Staying in the truck for 20 minutes or so, because of fear, I decide to get out and fish by the bridge close to the truck. After 10 minutes or so of fishing, I see my buddy coming down the shoreline towards the truck. I'm thinking, should I tell him what just happened? I don't. So I'm fishing with the truck 20 yards behind me when he arrives and he asks if he can use my spinning rod. No problem, I say. It's in the back seat. You have to get it together and set it up. I turn away and keep swinging the line. I'm 3 swings into my back cast, and then a rock comes from over my head and hits the water 2 feet in front of me. I instantly turn around and say, "What the F are you doing, you idiot? I'm fishing. Why the F are you throwing rocks?" He had the rod in his hand and is setting up a swivel using the bonnet of the truck. He says, "What the F are you talking about? Like I'd ever do that, you dummy." As I realize, of course he would never do that. I get a feeling again I'm being watched. At this point I get out of the water and say, "Let's head down river." I seen a pool on the way up, which I never. I was just actually scared. I must say in all my years in the bush I've been charged by moose, black, grizzly bears, multiple coyotes, wolves ridiculously close. I've never been scared like that. As bad as it sounds, yes, you're scared when encountering wildlife and the adrenaline goes crazy, but afterwards you kind of laugh it off and say to yourself, that was close. I have it to this day for that situation. The fear took absolute control, absolutely terrified. I've always been quite aware of my surroundings, being a solo hunter/fisher hiker for most of my life. When I go in the bush now, I'm more aware for sure. 2019, northeastern BC. My playground. My friend had tags for a bull, moose, elk, and bear. We went out the first day, never really seen much. The abundance of wolf sign was outrageous though. In all my years being all over fishing and hunting in Western Canada, I've never seen so much. Could hear them close and in the distance all day. The second day we're on our way up a Forest Service road to a pretty big cut block we scoped out a few weeks back. As we were walking to the block, the wolves were close, within 40 to 50 yards in the thick timber all around us. Had to be 10 plus howling and moving in around us. As this was happening, they were making a lot of noise. Mid-howls, they stopped and a silence overwhelmingly took control. We looked at each other and said, well, that was effing weird. We get to the cut block and set up on a ridge in the timber / blowdown to glass the area. We were there for over an hour and only seen a cow. As we were about to leave for the day, the knock started. Slowly at first and then to the point it sounded like someone was smashing a Louisville Slugger back and forth in between two trees very fast. It stopped, silence again. Then a weird swishing noise, kind of like some swishing you do to get a Steller's jay close, but mixed with an owl hooting. I know that's weird, but it's the only way I can describe it. My buddy turns and whispers, what the F was that? I say a Sasquatch. He jokingly, just joking around of course, and he gives me the nod as we say, yep. We wait for 30 minutes of silence, hoping to see something come out of the tree line. Nothing. To this day I try to make that sound, and even with someone's help it's impossible. As we leave the cut block we see fresh elk tracks going into the bush in the direction of the truck. My buddy turns to me and says, I'll go in and push him out towards the road. You get him when he hits the road. I start walking down the road being very quiet. 10 minutes passes and I hear a wolf yelp like I've never heard before. No gunshot or anything, just a weird yelp. Then the silence takes over again. You can hear a pin drop. Hair on my neck goes up and I know something's watching me. I chamber around and I'm waiting for something to come out. Nothing. I start walking down the road and then the truck comes into view. 400 yards away. As I see the truck down in the gully between me and the truck about 200 yards, I see the glimpse of a man. Seemed as he's dressed in all black clothes, which is super weird out hunting and no signs of anything or anybody all day. I brush it off. Someone else is hunting too. I walk another 50 yards and he's in the road again and turns broadside. Looks at me in the middle of the road. Had to be only a few seconds. Felt like time stopped. This is no hunter. I estimate 4 feet shoulder to shoulder, massive head. Had to be over 8 feet tall. I'm frozen. A calming sensation comes over me as if to say I'm safe. No harm will come to me. Like someone was in my head telling me I'm okay. It's almost like this was familiar to me, as if I knew this is going to happen without knowing. I don't even know how to explain it. He starts moving into the brush and then vanishes. I'm trying to convince myself I'm delusional. It's your mind playing tricks on you. Make belief type of shit. I'm thinking to myself, did that actually just happen? Was that an epic Sasquatch? My heart is racing. Then it starts to set in. I have to pass that exact spot where it entered to get back to the truck. Actually debate on going back to the truck. Not kidding. I made sure the gun was fully stocked and made my way down there slowly. Nothing. No sign, no tracks, no feelings, nothing at all. Like nothing happened. However, looking at the birch and judging the height, I would say it was over 9 feet tall. I didn't go off the road look for tracks. I was actually too scared. At this point, I was more concerned getting to the truck and having something I could put in between me, if needed. I get to the truck, so relieved, and the wolves start howling again. I bet he makes his way out and says he couldn't find the elk, but he had weird feelings like he was being watched in there. I say, that's weird. Wonder what it was. I wasn't telling him then and still haven't. First time I've told these stories. Once again, thank you for the no BS. F the man attitude. Feels good to get these off my chest. Cheers, my friend, and stay safe. Regards. Alright, man. You actually took me right back to when that thing was on an angle like that, 15 yards from me, waiting for me coming down the trail to get back in the truck after sundown. And I still had to go past the bottom of that truck and then through that tunnel of dark bush growing on either side of the old deactivated road. Longest walk in my life. Easily the longest walk in my life ever. But thanks for that share. And if you could, if you feel like it, possibly one day, just email me back and share with us what caused you to decide to share it today. After all those years. I'm curious to know, okay? Because your answer just may help others who are watching and have discomfort and apprehension, they're nervous, but meanwhile they've been plagued with that shitty memory for years and they got nowhere to dump it. Share it, right? Anyway, going for lunch, coming back out, and the hammer's going to start swinging on the lumber pile right outside this door here. And then once I get those walls up, if I got time, I'm going to share more emails. See you in a bit.